And it is 2 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. Welcome. Happy Monday. By the way, I want to congratulate our staff here at Harrison FM. A nice note from KPFK and others congratulating us on our honor last night at the Los Angeles Press Club, where I did, in fact, get a chance to hump Carl Bernstein's pant leg and try and absorb some of that good DNA so we can continue whatever the hell it is we do here on radio in 2012. We're going to have a lot of fun today, that's for sure, and we're going to talk to one of the smartest, the most luminous light bulbs of intelligence and humor that has ever graced our eyeballs, the optic nerve quivering in anticipatory delight. I could go on with the loftiest of encomiums, and they still would be meager and flaccid compared to the...
Meager and flaccid.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. And by the way, we're going to cover a panoply of topics, a pantheon of parturient, and I've run out of peas.
Right, but did you know that when your parents named you Carrie Harrison, that there was assonance in that name?
So I've been told.
Carrie Harrison. And the question is, did you pick up... You picked up any of his name? Did Carl Bernstein pick up any of your DNA? And that's the question, because you said you were humping his leg. There's more
pant
of
leg.
Pant leg.
Yes, I made sure.
So there's more of a chance that he might have gotten some of, unless he hasn't washed those pants.
Were you wearing a blue dress?
I think they were. His pants blue is what I want to know.
Now, you'll note that for aesthetic purposes, since part of the thing we're going to talk about is your new film, which is called The Magic of Belle Isle. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about A for a little bit. We're going to talk about gay rights, marriage, etc., and a super surprise, something I don't think you have heard in decades, Rob, that you're in.
Here we go.
And we're not talking All in the Family or anything.
No, this is going to be a Gomer Pyle or something.
No. It's a radical moment.
A radical moment.
A radical moment.
Yeah, I'm not involved in any of those.
I know that. It may have been somebody sounding and looking like you.
It's probably sounded like
You'll appreciate it. But because we're also going to touch into civil rights and some gay stuff, I have strategically placed Mercy Malik in eye shot for you as a gift to my brethren to balance out the aesthetic for you.
She's beautiful, by the way.
She's
much prettier than I am.
So
on your taste.
I just wanted your approval for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's because I care. Let's talk for a second. You've got a new movie coming out in July, early July, around the 6th, 7th.
Yes.
And it's called The Magic of Belle Isle.
Right.
And I have to tell you, Rob, watching your movies, and I am such a gnarled cynic. There's nothing but broken glass and twisted barbed wire in my soul, I feel at this point. Having fought the fight that you fought for so many years, I just think the Titanic, shifting the deck chairs is just a good way to build muscle at this point.
Yes.
But when I watch your art, I get choked up. I want to cry. I feel like a human being, and I feel
hope. You want to cry, but you didn't? Did you actually cry, or did you just want to cry?
Do you see that chihuahua there?
Yes, I do.
With the painted, it's a he.
Oh, it's a he. Yeah. I had a question about it because it has those pink nails, the pink claws there.
Yes. Well, I did that as an homage to some of the battles that we all struggle with.
Right.
I thought he, after having had his testicles snipped, not by me personally, but for some cause unknown when I rescued him, that he's now available to have pink nails and not know the difference. Possibly.
And he's comfortable with that.
He's secure in himself.
We'll never know. We're talking to Rob Reiner, director and screenwriter, nominated for Oscars, another 13 wins, 20 nominations. Certainly no layabout, no laggard.
No, I try to do my family proud. I try to bring home, well, not bacon because I'm Jewish, but other good things to eat.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I knew you, in a sense, through your father. When I grew up as a kid watching the Dick Van Dyke Show, that was brilliant humor. And I think not only does the apple not fall far from the tree, but when the tree is smart and the apples are good fruit, they tend to retain the magic from the parent tree. And I think that's much of your story, is you pay attention to life.
You hardly use any metaphors. That's what I like about you.
Thank you. That's what Kirk Douglas said last week.
Yeah. I'd rather be a free man among men than be the richest senator of Rome. I'm Spartacus. You know, it's interesting, but Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas, you know, who was in a film that I did, American President, he and I have talked extensively about the fact that we are probably there's maybe 3 or 4 people in this club that we talk about, which is children or offspring of parents who were wildly successful. I mean, you know, huge successes. Jane Fonda, you know, falls in that category.
She's one of your parents?
Well, no, I'm saying, you know, no, it's like we're the sons and daughters of, you know, and there's very few of us. It's a small club, But, you know, it's obviously his father and my dad, those are big, long, lanky shadows to come out from under.
Yeah, and when you think about the radical notion of, like, All in the Family, I was forbidden to watch it by my right-wing Republican you know, crypto, well, not so crypto, but just fascist father.
Wow. What happened to you? How did you get out from under?
I ended up going to a public university at one point and meeting real living human beings.
Wow.
I got out of the boarding school system and the school in Switzerland, all that crap that goes on with that, and suddenly was drinking beer around a keg, and I woke up.
Wow.
But I think that's part of the deal that you have to do. And then you make a choice. Because you can continue to wear a little Brooks Brothers suit and bring the world down, or you can wear flip-flops and have a hell of a good time.
Yes.
And that's something that you have taught me, too, I think, in much of the years of what you've done, is that if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you don't laugh and have a good time, it really is almost too much heavy lifting.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, we only have this one shot in life, unless you, like I say, you're Shirley MacLaine, and, you know, then you can, you know, bank on a few shots. But we do have to find that the pleasure that we have in life, and that's really the basic theme of the Magic of Belle Isle. When I turned 60 about, you know, 5 years ago, I'm now 65, it hit me very hard, you know, this whole idea of mortality and the fact that life is very precious. We have a limited time on the planet, and I started thinking of myself at that point as a very, very, very young old person, you know, because it's the beginning of that last part of your life, and you want to be able to cherish it. You want to be able to embrace it. So that's what made me do the bucket list, which is all about 2 guys facing their mortality and trying to squeeze every ounce of pleasure and joy that they can out of life. It's the same theme for the Magic of Belle Isle. Morgan Freeman plays a guy who's, you know, he's in a wheelchair. He's been drinking a lot. You find out he's lost his wife. He can't write anymore. He's a writer of Western novels, and he can't write. And, you know, he's basically given up on life, and he moves into this lakeside community for the summer and meets this woman played by Virginia Madsen and her 3 daughters, and over the course of the summer learns to live again. And what I'm trying to say is that no matter what your situation is, you can find some fun. You can find joy in life, and so I try to look for those kinds of themes.
It is 12 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. You are listening to Harrison FM on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 in San Diego, 99.5 in Central California, as well as on the Progressive Radio Network. And here and there, we're talking to famous director Rob Reiner. Also, he's very funny, he's very intuitive, a hell of a storyteller, multi-award winning, and also shows up on behalf of the humans, which I think is really where you get the gold star.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
And this movie that you've just made, The Magic of Belle Isle, where I said I was this close to sobbing, but I didn't want to humiliate myself in front of my chihuahua. He's a little sensitive that way.
I understand.
But Morgan Freeman, who you've been able to craft and cultivate through his own native talent, obviously.
He's a brilliant actor, and I've been very, very fortunate in that I've worked twice now with 2 of who I think are the best actors in American film today, which is Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. And Morgan is absolutely brilliant in this film. I would put him up against what he did in The Shawshank Redemption or Driving Miss Daisy. I think that it's that kind of performance. It's absolutely breathtaking, and what a pleasure as a director to watch him work every day.
And I would think, as a director, Rob Reiner, part of what you get to do with trust is open the sluices and let him come out, as opposed to really sort of micromanage.
Yeah, no, he's a consummate professional. He doesn't need a lot of prodding. We have so much fun together, and it's really why I wanted to make another movie with him. If I could, I would make every movie with him. We work very similarly. We both come to work knowing exactly what we want to do. We get it right the first time, and let's move on. I mean, he has an incredible facility. He is breathtaking to watch, and you don't have to. You do open the sluice and let him do what he does. He's absolutely brilliant.
I've known Virginia Madsen here and there, just in the neighborhood, because she lives around here, when for 3 days a year she's in West Hollywood, that is. And she's wonderful. And I think one of the things that I see connected with you and what you do in life is you surround yourself with people who have like a healthy worldview. And that's part of the legacy, I think, of what you give. And I just want to tease, coming up in about 8 minutes, we're going to surprise Rob with a piece of audio he may or may not remember, even know exists. But it is horripilatingly interesting.
But you're right about the worldview. I do try to surround myself with those people because at the end of the day, it's about the life experience. You know, you try to make good films, you try to do good work and hopefully touch people, but at the end of the day, it's about the time you're spending on the planet with people.
Yeah.
And you know, I see movies that I've made come on television, you know, late at night or whatever, I'm flipping around. And for me, it's like home movies. I watch it and I think, oh yeah, that's the summer that we spent at Greenwood Lake, or that's the summer we were in Ann Arbor, and I remember that day when we did that. So it is about the quality of life and what you do. That's what you remember, and that's what you take away from it.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, off air before we got here, well, I mean, I was already here. Actually, you were here too.
Yes.
Before we went on the air.
Funny how that works.
Well, it was
in order for us to have a conversation before we went on the air, we'd both have to be here.
Usually.
For that.
I'm into time travel, but I'm going to vote for you.
Yeah, okay.
But we talked about that this is no dress rehearsal. And I think a lot of people who feel so beaten down and so, like Air America, which was a wonderful and noble experiment.
Yes,
but
a venture that I put invested money into.
Oh.
Didn't receive any back, but we tried. We did try.
And, you know, unfortunately, it was a little lugubrious, I think, for a lot of people. And what I saw working at Clear Channel at the time was they had the KFI, which, if you're outside of Los Angeles right now, KFI is the right-wing Big Brother sister, I don't know what it is, androgyne something or other, to K-Talk. And this is where Rush Limbaugh and Dr. Laura and John and Ken and Timmy and Tammy and all the rest of the people polish their jackboots on the radio. And they sent the KFI salesman to sell Air America. So it's like, you know, it's the polar opposite of somebody who even appreciates or understands it. So starting out the gate with contempt and bile for the very product you're supposed to be selling, it's a recipe for collapse.
And it's unfortunate that the only kind of successful talk radio, political talk radio, are these extremely right-wing sensibilities. And what is so disturbing is that people, they lap this up, you know, and I don't know half the time whether or not Rush Limbaugh really believes these things. I mean, he's not an idiot, this guy, except in his political views, and I can't believe he believes some of the things that he says. They're so outrageous. I mean, but I guess that's what sells, and that's what people, you know, want to hear. It's just really unfortunate.
But I wonder, I mean, in your experience, and you've dealt with the top people on earth, you've been involved from top to bottom of every kind of political mechanics, whether it was Al Gore running for you, whatever it was. I mean, you've been involved from the middle. You've seen, and part of your job as an actor, too, is to understand the motivation of the human being so that you can brilliantly replicate it. As a director, tell that story again through yet another human being. Doubly difficult. So, that said, can Rush Limbaugh not really believe it and just be selling a used car and go to bed and feel okay about that? Or do you have to believe it?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I watch Mitt Romney day in and day out say one thing one day and literally within the same news cycle say something 180 degrees the opposite. So I wonder, how can somebody, is it just that he thinks the electorate is that dumb and that he is banking on the electorate being that dumb that he can just say whatever he wants and etch-a-sketch it away, as one of his advisors said, and basically bank on that to win an election? It puzzles me. I mean, again, he's not an idiot, he's not stupid, and yet he says things in polar opposite of something he said within 24 hours. And nobody seems to matter. Maybe they're not paying attention. Maybe they don't care. And so I watch that and I wonder. I wonder who, you know, if they really believe these things that they're saying.
Well, he has...
How can you say the sentence, as far as immigration policy, and we're talking about it today because of the Supreme Court ruling, how can you say, well, they should self-deport? He said said that. We're all laughing about it, but he said those words.
In earnest.
In earnest.
Yes.
Now he's saying something completely different, that I'm going to, put together a comprehensive, immigration policy. It's just so crazy. So, I want people to watch Aaron Sorkin's show just because it's really talking about the truth, and we have to get back to that. We have to get back to honest discourse and just, not bank on the fact that the electorate is just going to be dumb and not really process any of this.
Well, I'm thinking, Rob Reiner, that you might have missed the interplanetary connection with Mr. Romney. There is the planet Kolob. There's a whole lot of stuff that you and
I did miss that.
Down here,
I did miss that.
We're struggling around with plants and air and water that we may or may not be able to drink.
Right.
But he's got a separate thing, and having, I think, christened many Jewish people after they died, and brought them into the church, baptized.
Yes, he baptizes people after they're dead, which is, an interesting concept. Interesting, yeah.
Especially when you didn't request it or authorize it. That's a prickly one.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I don't know how effective it really is.
We'll find out. Harrison with you. We're going to go to traffic in just a moment, and then coming up in about 3 minutes as we continue talking to Rob Reiner, director of a new movie called The Magic of Belle Isle, which I saw, and I will tell you my tear ducts got swollen. They got turgid. What's another word for that? Tumesced. Right?
Oh.
That good. It is a wonderful old-fashioned bit of storytelling where the actors actually take time to have dialogue. I know, it's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. What a wonderful thrill ride. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to continue with Rob Reiner. We are streaming live video right now. You can catch it at harrison.fm, harrison.fm, or goharrison.com, or any of our news affiliates that are also carrying the live stream, and live radio naturally on KPFK and any of our Pacifica affiliates as well. Now let's go to a little live and local traffic with Jeff Thomas.
Completely unsponsored common sense commuter traffic.
It is 21 minutes past the hour. This is your Bill Harrison live and local traffic report on KPFK. Let's get started in Vernon on the 710 South before Bandini. A two-car wreck is taking away the carpool lane. The drive is stacked from the 5 freeway. In Linwood on the 710 South, just a little south of that last incident. Look at 105 freeway. There's a car wreck blocking the 2 left lanes. Drive is slow from Imperial Highway. In Glendale on the 5 North at Western, there's a stalled car blocked in the right lane. Just stop and go from the 134. Finally, in Alhambra, on 10 West before Fremont, there's a crash blocked in the number 4 lane. Drivers going to be thrown go from Garfield. For Harrison, I'm Jeffrey Thomas. I'm KPFK 93.7 FM here in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Chicago.
Commuter traffic.
Why don't you look me up?
GoHarrison.com.
310-737-TALK.
When I heard your show, I actually peed my pants laughing on the 405.
Cab drivers had it on, and they were big fans of yours, so just to let you know, the yellow taxi population.
Hey, Harrison, I was listening to your show last week on Saturday, and so I missed like the first 15 minutes of the movie. I'm out like $12, so I was wondering if, maybe you just mail me the check.
You're the most despised on my list. And believe me when I tell you I'm making a list.
Message marked urgent. Magic. Hello, Harrison. I just want to let you know you're absolutely the best thing I've heard on radio or TV in my life. Wonderful. Keep up the good work.
I'm a 50-year-old black male, closeted bisexual, cross-country truck driver who is an extraterrestrial in a human body. I have made the dedication to be true to myself.
Occupying this. 310-737-TALK.
Now you can end the pain of itching or hemorrhoidal tissue. Just look for my picture on a box of suppositories and the Appleton Tube. Another fine product from OIB, the Obesity in Broadcasting Network.
Things were pretty bad down in Beaverton after the Big Beaver River overflowed and sent beaverites running for their lives. Well, those poor folks lost just about everything, and they almost lost hope. But that's when the people I work for at Philip Morris stepped in. We airlifted in all the supplies that the townfolk desperately needed to get their lives back in order.
People of Beaverton, we're here to help you.
Are you from the Red Cross?
No, the Philip Morris Companies.
You should have been there to see their faces when every beaverite was given a carton of Marlboros and a block of expired Velveeta cheese.
Here you go, little girl. You need matches?
The people at the Philip Morris Companies saw this tragedy as an opportunity to help people and get around that pesky ban on broadcast cigarette advertising.
Hey lady?
Yep?
Can I trade in my Velveeta for another carton of Marlboro?
Sure thing, kid. You need matches?
Working to make people think we're making a difference. The people of Philip Morris.
Harrison on the edge, like NPR on acid.
Harrison with you. It is 25 minutes past the hour. You are listening to Harrison FM on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 in San Diego, 99.5 in Central California. Here and beyond, live streaming high-def video at goharrison.com as well as harrison.fm. We're talking right now with world-famous director Rob Reiner. And you know, if you just say world-famous, not everybody it's true for. With you, it absolutely and empirically is. Right. You have a new movie, Rob, called, don't you love that?
Yeah, The Magic of Belle Isle.
That's right, The Magic of Belle Isle. It's coming out in about a week.
Yes, it comes out July 6th.
That's right. And it's a story about a wheelchair-bound writer who has lost his muse. He loves to drink his sour mash whiskey. He's doing the pour me another drink routine, right? And through this relationship with Virginia Madsen, not to destroy the thing, but let's say he repercolates his coffee pot.
Yes. He learns to live again. He learns to embrace life again.
And I think that's really the plot of the human play. So many of us, and again, we live in well, I think everyone has always said we live in tough times, but Jesus, do we live in tough times now?
Yeah, I think everybody probably said that at some
right.
point in time.
Yep.
And you have to find ways to enjoy yourself, and then find good friends that you can do. Have fun things to do. Find something you like to do that you're passionate about, that you're good at, and just do it.
Absolutely. Now, I promised that we would tease you with something, or I teased something that you probably have not heard in about 30 years.
Okay.
And so we found this in the vault. It was a reel-to-reel tape with dust on it.
Yes.
That happened in 1974.
Okay.
And I'm just going to have to kind of spoil it here. We'll go to the phones in just a minute, by the way. Everybody on hold. Hold on a second. We are talking to Rob Reiner live. Here's what happened. It was flown in by airplane back then. There was no FedEx. The transcripts to something that had just happened that was newsmaking. And I referenced Carl Bernstein, who I humped the pant leg of last night.
I know what this is.
When we got honored.
Yeah.
And so we found audio of you and Mama Cass Elliott
Oh my God.
reading the Nixon transcripts that were not yet publicly available.
Right.
These had been leaked. You were the only ones, and this was the first time any of the residents of Earth would hear this.
Right. I remember doing this.
So here we are. Here you are, Rob, and let's take a listen. And it's about 2 minutes long, but oh my.
Our actors will now introduce themselves and indicate the parts they will be playing.
Hi, I'm Rob Reiner. I'll be playing Ehrlichman.
I am Eugene Trubnik, and I'll be playing Mr. Nixon.
I'm Cass Elliott, and I'll be playing Haldeman.
And now for the meeting that took place on April 17th at 12:35 in the afternoon in the Oval Office. The first voice you hear is that of the President.
Go ahead on the action.
Well, it would involve the suspension because it would involve a recounting of how you happen to get into that personal investigation of this by reason of Dean's being unable to reduce his full report to you to writing for you. And that rang a bell. You personally turned to and have spent a great deal of your time in the last several weeks on this, and they will consider.
And otherwise, they'll go into open hearings.
Yes, but there again, executive privilege is reserved.
Oh, executive privilege is reserved. Fine.
At this point, the way we're in the soup now, we can lose nothing by going.
That's right.
I think we may gain.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. So if you can prepare me with at least that much, I'll agree. That I can say that today.
Well, that's a hell of a bomb shelter right there.
Yes, it is. But let's get on with the rest of it.
That's right. That's all I have for today. But it gets you into the case. It's you leading it. It notices the progress and the grand jury is related to your efforts, and it doesn't say what they are.
Well, the point is, through the story today, is that John Dean is suspended. But, and then John Dean is going to be out there plastering, out saying the president has indicated that Haldeman and Ehrlichman too might go.
Let me suggest a different process, which is that you don't suspend Dean, but that you instruct John Dean that he is not to come to work anymore. He is in effect suspended, but not publicly suspended.
Yeah, very Nixonian, right?
Oh my God, I remember that. And, you know, there's also been some tapes released where Nixon talks about having seen an episode of All in the Family, and he basically trashes me because I apparently, and it was an episode that dealt with homosexuality. There was, I think, the 4th episode we ever did, and Archie had a friend who was an ex-football player who turned out to be a homosexual. I had a friend that was kind of, you know, dressing a certain way, and he used to just trash him and say, you know, sweetie pie Roger, your friend, and he was straight. So, and then Nixon talked about how he saw this disgusting television show where they talked about this, and that young kid with the long hair, and he talked about me, and I heard those tapes. So,
what an honor!
I know it's an honor to be trashed by Nixon.
And I'm told by the Pacifica Archives, who made this available for us today, and that's pacificaarchives.org, as I appropriately plug them, as I said I would, pacificaarchives, one word.org.
Wow.
That's .org, pacificaarchives, one word.org. When they, pacificaarchives.org, made that available today, one word, apparently this is the only known record of Mama Cass Elliot ever being political. This according to her daughter. There is no other recording, no other video, no nothing of her ever having engaged in a political moment.
No, it's true. I mean, during the 60s, I was with a group called The Committee, which was an improvisational theater company that did political satire. And sometimes Mama Cass would come and hang out with us. Janis Joplin also came on stage with us and hung out and did some improvs and stuff. But very rarely, I mean, there was a cross-pollination, no question about it, between the rock and roll world and the political satirical world, but very rarely would they come out and do these kinds of things.
We're going to go to news in just about 30 seconds with Mercy Malik. Harrison with you. You are watching and listening to Harrison FM, harrison.fm, where you can see live video right now of Rob Reiner, director Rob Reiner, who's talking to us about his movie, The Magic of Belle Isle. Rob, as you know, Oscar nominee, has won another 13 awards, 20 nominations, more than any human can probably tolerate without being weighed down and having his mantelpiece fall and crash on the floor. But that's what good art looks like. It weighs a lot. And we're going to continue. Nice. And we just played a weighty piece of audio, and we're going to get a little bit into civil rights, for something that Rob has been behind to help create gay marriage, and a new movie that's coming out, untitled, I think, still, but we'll find out.
Well, the movie that's coming out is The Magic of Belle Isle, but I'm working on another film that but I have a title for that as well.
Oh, do you? Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to get into that, and we're going to talk about what it means to be a superhero. He's way too humble to put that moniker on himself, but I'm just going to lavish him with it until he soaks in the paint of well, it is kind of a verbal abuse.
Until I start to actually cry.
Yes. An act of emesis. Then we're going to go to your phones. 310-737-TALK are your Harrison hotlines. 310-737-TALK. And now a little news with Mercy Malik.
Go Harrison. News update.
Harrison FM News Time is 33 minutes past the hour, and I'm Mercy Malik with your reality check. The United States Senate last week rejected a proposed amendment to the Farm Bill, which would have allowed states to require the labeling of genetically modified foods. Allow me to repeat, the proposal did not mandate state labeling. It only aimed to allow states to do so of their own accord. But the corporations who want you to eat their frankenfoods unawares were having none of that. RawStory.com reports that the amendment's author, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, said the bill was, quote, opposed by virtually every major food corporation in the country, end quote, which begs the question, what are they afraid of exactly? Californians can take pride in the fact that Senator Barbara Boxer co-sponsored the amendment, and Dianne Feinstein was among the meager 26 senators to vote for its passage. Sanders, meanwhile, vowed to continue the fight with future legislative proposals, saying, quote, the people of America have a right to know what's in the food that they eat, end quote, which is, crazy
democracy.
Talk. Yeah, crazy. It's 34 minutes past the hour. Still wondering why Monsanto so badly wants to prevent Americans from knowing when they're eating genetically modified foods. Oh, what's this next story? CBS News reports that an entire herd of cattle have dropped dead in Texas from eating genetically modified grass. Funny how those two stories go together. Might just be me. Preliminary tests show that the genetically modified grass in question suddenly and surprisingly began producing cyanide gas.
Well.
None too nutritious. Not so much. Not surprisingly.
You mean their bodies weren't craving cyanide?
They apparently, even if they did, it did not end well. The cattle dining upon the frankengrass died horribly before the eyes of ranch hands. Rancher Jerry Abel reports that when the cattle were found in distress, quote, some were already dead and the others were already in convulsions. That was very traumatic to see because there was nothing you could do. Obviously, they were dying, end quote. Other farmers in the Texas county of Bastrop have since tested their genetically modified grazing grass, and several have found that theirs too is in fact producing cyanide. In other news, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It's 35 minutes past the hour. And finally, a word on a former Harrison in-studio guest, Republican presidential contender Fred Karger. While Mitt Romney is acknowledged as the inevitable Republican candidate for president, his nomination is not yet official, so the campaign marches on, including candidate Karger, the very first openly gay U.S. presidential candidate to run for nomination by any political party. Earlier this month, Karger campaigned in the great state of Utah, a place not known for its progressive attitude towards the LGBTs.
Except at Sundance. You get 3 days.
Massive sigh. During his 4-day stay, Karger met with, among others, Washington County Republican Party Chairman Willie Billings, whom Karger characterized as, quote, welcoming and friendly, end quote. The rest of Billings' family, apparently not so much. Yahoo News reports that Nanette Billings, wife of Willie, fired off an email to Karger after the meeting, replete with spelling and punctuation errors, calling Karger an idiot, informing him that she had trashed his campaign swag, and most notably expressing glee that as a gay man he, quote, can't procreate, end quote. Given an opportunity to explain her missive, Nanette Billings amazingly told Yahoo News, quote, my feeling is the only reason he's running for president is to find more sexual partners, end quote.
I gotta write that
She
down.
said that. That's what she
I'm gonna
said.
start campaigning.
Here's some free advice, Nanette. First of all, when accusing someone else of being an idiot, good idea to use spell check. And even though people like you don't deserve attention of any sort, you have indeed earned the title of Loser of the Week. For Harrison FM on KPFK 90.7 Los Angeles, 98.7 Santa Barbara, 93.7 San Diego, and 99.5 Ridgecrest, China Lake, I'm Mercy Malik. You can be my friend on Facebook and send me news tips for your reality check.
News update. Harrison. Reality check.
Hi, everybody. Harrison with you. When U.S. News and World Report reported the remains of Richard Nixon's Cocker Spaniel Checkers would be dug up from New York's Bidewee Pet Cemetery and moved to the Californian gravesite of Richard.
Well, I'm not a crook.
Nixon. No one followed up on this exciting report. Evie represents the Nixon Museum in Yorba Linda, California.
We have a topiary of Checkers in our garden, but Checkers is resting peacefully at Bidewee.
Ah, the spaniel years. Pop Nixon stroking his dog. daughters gazing up at their visionary dad. As daffodils and pansies bloom around the Nixon graveside, we shall eagerly watch to see if Checker's ribcage, his bones and skull are dug up and repackaged into a cardboard box, then flown in the baggage compartment of a 727 until being scattered at their final resting place, Dick and Dick's dog, together again in a cool hole deep in the ground at Yorba Linda.
Reality check with Harrison.
I hope he's not a fag. I hope he's not a drag. I hope he's not a queer. I hope he's not a mistake. Although I have to say that with each passing day, I have a few more doubts. I think he's gay. He drives a common gear. I think interior is so latest it makes mine seem inferior. In the hottest weather, he wears handsome leather with a coat. I think he's gay.
It is 39 minutes past the hour.
Awesome.
Harrison with you, your new best friend. You are listening to Harrison FM, available all over the place and streaming live video as well right now at harrison.fm. We are talking to famous director Rob Reiner, infamous, I suppose, if you're Richard Nixon, and his chums talking about you. We heard some audio earlier ago, about 30 years old, where you and Mama Cass and others got together. Mama Cass playing Haldeman.
Yes, interesting
That's
casting.
hot.
Very interesting casting.
That's out of the box.
Yeah, that is.
really.
Now, Mercy, are you any relation to Wendy Malick?
I wish I were.
Because you have the same look as...
We have the same coloring, but
Yeah.
she's about a full foot taller than me.
Yeah.
But I've never worked with her, but I've heard that she's absolutely
She's a wonderful
lovely.
actress. She's
Yeah.
in Hot in Cleveland, and my dad has been in that show a few times, and she also was
fantastic.
in American President.
Yes. And if you Google both of us, we apparently donate to all the same political causes.
Well,
Imagine that.
There you go.
Now, Rob has a new movie out called The Magic of Belle Isle. It's coming out next week. And it's one that I really recommend because a lot of movies, I liked Prometheus. It was kind of like an optical orgasm. It had lots of big noise, beautiful 3D effects. But the thing that I pine for and I miss is good old-fashioned storytelling. Right. Where people pause and there's emotion and there's evolution of character. This is the stuff that I tether on to when I want to become a better human being. Often you need people modeling good behavior. And this is something for decades that you, having single-handedly saved the residents of Earth, Rob Reiner.
Well, thank you very much. I thought that was L. Ron Hubbard that had done that.
Depends who you ask.
I guess so. It depends, yeah.
I'm going to play you a little piece of audio here, Rob. This is a 14-year-old boy who has an internet show, and his name is Caden Conger. And he is imitating Rush Limbaugh. And there's a whole... They use children now. They've run out of good ammo, so the whole idea is now you bring in children. Now, if a progressive were to use his child for any kind of purpose, working in factories as Mr. Gingrich.
Child abuse, yeah.
Yes, child abuse. But when they do it, they're doing the Lord's will. Right. Whoever their Lord is that day. And this is 14-year-old. Listen to what he says. He's hugely talented. But if this isn't child abuse and creepiness, check this out.
When kids are teens, are being basically indoctrinated and encouraged to follow homosexuality, with the president saying, it's all right, go ahead and be a homosexual. With the vice president, it's all right, be a homosexual. Barbara Boxer was on TV the other day. It's all right. I used to be against homosexuality, but now I've changed. Now I've accepted the rainbow. I'm going to tell you this, guys. President Obama, Vice President Biden is making kids gay.
They is making kids gay, Rob.
Yeah.
They is doing that.
Somebody should make that kid smart.
Homeschooled, no doubt.
So let's establish something first right here, right now. Because there are going to be a lot of people who really aren't boned up, as it were, on the topic so much. But this notion that it's a choice to be gay. Yeah. Now, I see two straight guys sitting in front of you. In front of me. Well, not in front of you, Rob, but in front of me.
They're behind me.
They're behind you.
Yeah.
You don't wake up in the morning and go, I'm gonna like girls today. God damn it, I'm going to like them. I swear I'm going to. It just doesn't work that way.
And we prove that in a court of law. That's what the whole point of our federal court challenge on Proposition 8 was to show those things. David Boies and Ted Olson, who are the two lead attorneys.
Ted Olson, formerly the Solicitor General for the Bush administration.
Right, and they opposed each other in Bush v. Gore. And my wife, myself, and Chad Griffin started the American Foundation for Equal Rights to challenge Proposition 8. And we wanted to put those ideas to the test. And the interesting thing, and David Boies pointed this out when he came on television, he said, you know, you can say whatever you want on the radio, on television, just like that 14-year-old boy just said. You can say whatever you want, but in a court of law, you have to raise your right hand and promise to tell the truth, so help you God. And there's an interesting thing that happens. All of this garbage just kind of melts away and the truth emerges. And the truth of the matter is, we proved in a court of law that what you just said is true. You do not choose your sexuality. You are born one way or the other, and that's who you are. We also proved in a court of law that homosexuality does not have an ill effect on the institution of marriage, and also does not affect children being raised in homes with two men or two women. We proved that in a court of law. The opposition had nothing to say about this, and interestingly enough, the only witness that they put on was a guy named David Blankenhorn. That guy just this week came out and said, I've changed my mind about whether or not this affects the institution of marriage. He basically made our case for us in the courtroom, but now he has officially come out and said, I was wrong about all of this. So the world is shifting as older people are moving off the planet and younger people are coming forward. We see a huge shift, and right now we're over 50% in this country that believe that gays should have a right to get married. The gay community is the only community left in America that is thought of as lesser under the law. There is no other community. Every other community has legal protection under the law, except the gay community. And that's going to change.
Yeah, and the gay community may have nicer water fountains. That would be the only upgrade in this.
Right.
And it's interesting how a group of American citizens can be singled out as under people, and it does. And if you just swap out the word and say Italian instead of gay or Jewish or something, we get, oh my God, you're actually picking out a group of American citizens.
Yes.
But for some reason, I think people do have in the back of their mind that you made a bad choice somewhere.
Yes.
But we know from science, and it was UCLA in concert with a BBC-funded program, they found that a fruit fly within a single hour had its orientation change 5 times because of the temperature differentials. And when the temperature went up and down, the hormones actually changed, affecting the rhinencephalic nerve, and it caused them to like boy fruit flies or girl fruit flies, and the fruit fly didn't care. And this was not covered in the U.S.
Because it's not being it's not encountering any prejudice from other fruit flies. I think that's why it didn't care. That's good. And to get to your audio clip for a second, what 14-year-old boy in his right mind wants more competition for 14-year-old girls? What's that about? Seriously? The thing that boggles my mind is, why do people care? What is it that's so threatening about what others are doing?
Well, that's the thing. And for those of us who are not gay, it's impossible for us to look at a gay person and say that you deserve less than me, that your right should be less than mine. There's nobody in this country or around the world that doesn't have either a gay relative, a gay friend, a gay colleague in the workplace, and to look at that person and say, you deserve less than me, it's just not American. It's not American.
Well put.
47 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. You are listening to Harrison FM. We are talking to director Rob Reiner. Has a movie coming out next week called The Magic of Belle Isle. Rob, you know everything from Stand By Me to Harry Met Sally to Few Good Men. Has directed famous, powerful famous people. Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman, who you mentioned were 2 of your favorites of all. A great movie. If you like good storytelling, if you like to be moved, if you like to see a template of decent behavior in 2012 in a very realistic setting and just actually be moved and have the kind of thing that you can give this movie to a lot of people down the road when it ultimately becomes a DVD, or sit in a movie theater with 600 people and have one hell of an experience, you need to go see it on my personal recommendation, because let me tell you, it is a wonderful piece of storytelling, something that Rob Reiner is so well known for. Let's go to the phones, Rob, and say hi to Zach, who's been patiently waiting there. And Zach, you're on Harrison FM with Rob Reiner.
Hi.
Hi, Zach.
Thank you. I'm actually thank you. I'm a big fan of you, Harrison, and certainly you, Mr. Reiner. I have been for a long time, and I love listening to you guys talk about politics. But my question right now is actually more about health.
Yes.
And I heard that you have asthma, Mr. Reiner, and I know that you've been active in highlighting health disparities for young children. And
I did when I was very young. I don't have it now. I did have aspects of it when I was young, but when I was the chairman of the state commission on First Five, it's called the First Five Commission, which I was for 7 years. I chaired that commission. We did spend a considerable amount of money because it is a very, very difficult problem here in California, around the country, for children who have asthma. We did spend a lot of money in asthma prevention and asthma treatment.
Yeah, and so I was curious about, I guess your experience as a child with asthma, and then what can we do to sort of raise the awareness and get the word out about the dangers of asthma? That's all I wanted to ask.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have as many resources as we'd like to have. It sounds like a lot. The First Five Commission, brings in about $600 million a year, but those services, that money goes to services for all children 0 to 5, and it's all kinds of programs, preschool and healthcare and parent education. And one of the aspects that we did focus in was on asthma and asthma control. So, we're doing what we can, but it is difficult, and especially since there are so many problems facing us today, to get the word out on a particular issue is very difficult.
Does that answer your question, Zach?
It certainly does, and I really appreciate it. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Thank you, Zach.
And so am I.
Yeah, so is Carrie. Harrison's a gentleman.
Thank you, Zach.
We know he's a scholar. I don't know if he's a gentleman.
Well, let me show you a gentlemanly act. This was given to me yesterday by Carl Bernstein. It's my personal copy of All the President's Men,
Wow.
and I'm giving this to you.
Wow.
Because you have done more than 99.3.2% of the people that I know.
Thank you very much for this. And interestingly enough, I watched this. I've seen this film about 25 times.
Yeah.
The film that's made out of this about 25 times. I watched it 2 nights ago. Again, and I'm with my son, who had never seen it, who's 21 years old, and my daughter, who's 14, because I wanted to let them know what went on during this time period. And I find it fascinating that we've had 2 really big scandals that have happened since Watergate. We had the Iran-Contra scandal, nothing happened to anybody, and we had the Iraq War scandal about torture and about going into war, lying ourselves into war, and nothing ever happened to anybody who was, we had a minute with Libby, Scooter. Scooter got a little bit of a nervousness.
Isn't scooting when a dog crawls across the carpet on its rear end to pull the worms out of its sphincter?
Yeah, I think that's Scooter.
Yeah, that's scootering.
But Bush let him off the hook, so we didn't have anything there. And the only time we've actually tried to get a president was for having sex, with somebody who wasn't his wife.
Vastly more important than
way
killing
more important than torture, killing hundreds of thousands of people, going to war based on a lie, or trading arms for hostages.
Let me throw out the white elephant in the middle of the room. Last night, we're at the Los Angeles Press Club. And I think the Lifetime Achievement Award was for TV News having covered fearlessly construction workers drinking beer during the lunch hour. It was just moving and amazing. And I knew where I needed to really start putting my energy personally.
Yeah.
And sarcasm, let's leave the sarcasm in there for just a moment. The thing that I found profound is that, and there was a Daniel Pearl Award, and the parents were there. Very moving, very powerful. The one part missing in a room full of America's top journalists, we assume, is why did this guy end up having to go out there to take pictures anyway? That a president had lied. I mean, this is Nixon on steroids.
Right.
This is Nixon times 5, really.
Right.
And that's not the story. The story is the symptom. The symptom is good people end up getting permanently damaged. That's the symptom. The source, the metastasized ickiness, is not talked about at all. And it was sitting in the middle of the room, and nobody stood up and said, you know... And how do we deal with that?
Well, it's rough because now the news outlets are all owned by major corporations. Everybody wants to get access to people in positions of power, and they're not willing to go out on. They're not willing to do what Woodward and Bernstein did. They're not willing to do the real reporting. I mean, we just danced into that war in Iraq, and Judy Miller was the only person we ever listened to, and she was in the pocket of the White House. I mean, this was a tragedy that happened, and the fact that we just sat by and we watched this happen. I thought in my lifetime, and I'm much older than you are, that
that again.
I'm much older than you are, that I would see what we saw happened in the Vietnam War, where we were lied about the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. We were lied to about that. To see that happen again in my lifetime, I said, there's no way. And look, it happened again, and that's because we have a press corps that's really not willing to do the work.
Or press corps, if you really want to pronounce all the words.
And if they are willing to do the work, they have to leave the country to be published, like Greg Palast. The only refuge for people is foreign news organizations like the BBC. It's just appalling. As an American, it's really offensive.
It really is, and it's unfortunate. We are owned by major corporations, and we're in the pockets of these major corporations. They just want to make sure that they get their profits out there. So the truth is a terrible casualty of what's happening to corporatizing the news.
You know, it's interesting. I remember when I was at Clear Channel when we were doing Air America, and Mitt Romney had swept in, and Bain Capital took over Clear Channel, and was fueling all kinds of money in it while simultaneously laying people off. You know, so the official story is we're doing great, and they replaced the humans on the air that were actually doing live news and trying to be relevant with those electronic billboards you see on the freeway.
Right.
So that was the swap, and I know I feel better seeing those billboards now.
Yeah, I know. It's
a service.
It's a comfort.
Yeah.
We're talking to Rob Reiner, and we're about to roll radio credits here, if there is such a thing. And his movie is called The Magic of Belle Isle. And you need to see it. It's coming out in the theaters next week. It stars Morgan Freeman. It stars Virginia Madsen. And if you love Morgan Freeman, and who doesn't? Maybe there's two people, Nixon relatives possibly. But it is a truly magical thing, and really gifted and enhanced by Rob's incredible directorial skills. And imagine a guy in a wheelchair where one day we're all going to be there. And I think we're faced with, and this is what we talked with Kirk Douglas about last week, is what does it look like when I'm 95? And you really have choices. You can be an upright being, you can have love and romance and passion and thought and imagination, or you can just collapse and decay.
Right.
And you have shown that Morgan, who started that path, totally was able to switch. Completely believable. And you also wrote the screenplay.
Well, it was originally written by a fellow named Guy Thomas. I did a lot of rewriting on it, but it was originally a story by a fellow named Guy Thomas.
Well, it's really wonderful, and I'm very much looking forward to being able to see it in the big house with the other kids.
You don't mean like in prison?
Anything's possible around here.
Because you put yourself out on a limb in a couple of situations here in this show.
Well, I can always hack off my limbs, which when I self-deport.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of cool things. Rob Reiner, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This is huge fun and a treat. And I was telling somebody on the phone earlier, I'm not usually starstruck. I mean, we've talked to all kinds of people here, but having you come in today, I don't know what it is, but I just felt like a young maiden. So I'm getting a grip now. And I want to thank you, Mercy Malik, for doing our news. As always, Garrett Ritt, thank you so much for helping us out. Everybody else, KPFK, Harrison with you. Don't forget, there's going to be a podcast of this within 23.7 hours at harrison.fm, harrison.fm, and of course on Google as well. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.
It's radio with release. You know, kind of like a massage. Harrison on the edge.
Jane Fonda, falls in that category.
She's one of your parents?
Well, no, I'm saying, no, it's like we're the sons and daughters of,
Yeah.
and there's very few of us. It's a small club, yeah. But, obviously his father and my dad, those are big, long, lanky shadows to come out from under.
Yeah, and when you think about the radical notion of, like, All in the Family, I was forbidden to watch it by my right-wing Republican, crypto, well, not so crypto, but just fascist father.
Wow. What happened to you? How did you get out from under?
I ended up going to a public university at one point and meeting real living human beings.
Wow.
I got out of the boarding school system and the school in Switzerland, all that crap that goes on with that, and suddenly was drinking beer around a keg, and I woke up.
Wow.
But I think that's part of the deal that you have to do. And then you make a choice. Because you can continue to wear a little Brooks Brothers suit and bring the world down, or you can wear flip-flops and have a hell of a good time.
Yes.
And that's something that you have taught me, too, I think, in much of the years of what you've done, is that if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you don't laugh and have a good time, it really is almost too much heavy lifting.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, did you pick up any of his DNA? Did Carl Bernstein pick up any of your DNA? And that's the question, because you said you were humping his leg. There's more
pant leg.
Pant leg.
Yes, I made sure.
So there's more of a chance that he might have gotten some of, unless he hasn't washed those pants.
Were you wearing a blue dress?
I think they were. His pants blue is what I want to know.
Now, you'll note that for aesthetic purposes, since part of the thing we're going to talk about is your new film, which is called The Magic of Belle Isle. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about A for a little bit. We're going to talk about gay rights, marriage, etc., and a super surprise, something I don't think you have heard in decades, Rob, that you're in.
Here we go.
And we're not talking All in the Family or anything.
No, this is going to be a Gomer Pyle or something.
No. It's a radical moment.
A radical moment.
A radical moment.
Yeah, I'm not involved in any of those.
I know that. It may have been somebody sounding and looking like you.
It's probably sounded like
You'll appreciate it. But because we're also going to touch into civil rights and some gay stuff, I have strategically placed Mercy Malik in eye shot for you as a gift to my brethren to balance out the aesthetic for you.
She's beautiful, by the way.
She's
much prettier than I am.
So
on your taste.
I just wanted your approval for that. Nominated for Oscars, another 13 wins, 20 nominations. Certainly no layabout, no laggard.
No, I've tried to do my family proud. I try to bring home, well, not bacon because I'm Jewish, but other good things to eat.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I knew you, in a sense, through your father. When I grew up as a kid watching the Dick Van Dyke Show, that was brilliant humor.
Yeah.
And I think not only does the apple not fall far from the tree, but when the tree is smart and the apples are good fruit, they tend to retain the magic from the parent tree. And I think that's much of your story, is you pay attention to life.
You hardly use any metaphors. That's what I like about you.
Thank you. That's what Kirk Douglas said last week.
Yeah. I'd rather be a free man among men than be the richest senator of Rome. I'm Spartacus. It's interesting, but Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas, who was in a film that I did, American President, he and I have talked extensively about the fact that we are probably there's maybe 3 or 4 people in this club that we talk about, which is children or offspring of parents who were wildly successful. I mean, huge successes.
And it is 2 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. Welcome. Happy Monday. By the way, I want to congratulate our staff here at Harrison FM. A nice note from KPFK and others congratulating us on our honor last night at the Los Angeles Press Club, where I did, in fact, get a chance to hump Carl Bernstein's pant leg and try and absorb some of that good DNA so we can continue whatever the hell it is we do here on radio in 2012. We're going to have a lot of fun today, that's for sure, and we're going to talk to one of the smartest, the most luminous light bulbs of intelligence and humor that has ever graced our eyeballs, the optic nerve quivering in anticipatory delight. I could go on with the loftiest of encomiums, and they still would be meager and flaccid compared to the...
Meager and flaccid.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. And by the way, we're going to cover a panoply of topics, a pantheon of parturient and I've run out of peas.
Right, but did you know that when your parents named you Carrie Harrison, that there was assonance in that name?
So I've been told.
Carrie Harrison. And the question is, yes, absolutely.
Well, it's because I care. Let's talk for a second. You've got a new movie coming out in July, early July, around the 6th, 7th, and it's called The Magic of Belle Isle.
Right.
And I have to tell you, Rob, watching your movies, and I am such a gnarled cynic. There's nothing but broken glass and twisted barbed wire in my soul, I feel at this point. Having fought the fight that you fought for so many years, I just think the Titanic, shifting the deck chairs is just a good way to build muscle at this point.
Yes.
But when I watch your art, I get choked up.
Oh, thank
I
you.
want to cry. I feel like a human being, and I
You
feel
want to
hope.
cry, but you didn't? Did you actually cry, or did you just want to cry?
Do you see that Chihuahua there?
Yes,
you know what,
I do.
how- with
She's
the painted,
adorable.
it's a he.
Oh, it's a he. Yeah.
And
Well, I had a question about it because it has those pink nails, the pink claws there.
Yes, well, I did that as an homage to some of the battles that we all struggle with.
Right.
I thought he, after having had his testicles snipped, not by me personally, but for some cause unknown when I rescued him, that he's now available to have pink nails and not know the difference, possibly.
And he's comfortable with that.
He's secure in himself.
We'll never know. We're talking to Rob Reiner, director and screenwriter.